The confirmed number of coronavirus cases in Los Angeles County comes to 270,299. The confirmed number of deaths reaches 6,576. Here in Torrance, the total number of confirmed cases is 1,438, with total confirmed deaths at 70. Welcome to COVID-19 Today. I'm Leslie Robbins. It's 4 p.m. on Wednesday, September 30th. The county's public health officials gave updates to the coronavirus pandemic in today's press briefing with cautious optimism and promising news of more reopenings. Public Health Director Dr. Barbara Ferrer says the county is currently at 3% positivity rate, and if that trend continues, this would take the county into the next tier level in just a short few weeks, which would mean more relaxed restrictions. Ferrer says this is the lowest the county has seen since the pandemic hit in March. The highly anticipated indoor shopping malls were announced to be allowed to reopen at limited capacity. Over the next 10 days, indoor shopping centers can welcome back shoppers at 25% maximum capacity, with common areas and food courts remaining closed. Nail salons are also allowed to reopen at 25% capacity for indoor services, and the highly anticipated park playgrounds were given the green light to allow children back to play with face coverings on and no food or drinks on the playground. On Tuesday, California's Department of Public Health announced that outdoor playgrounds across the state can reopen following revised local public health orders. Ferrer says county officials are exploring ways to reopen wineries and breweries that service food. They hope to have an update in the next few days. A local college is on lockdown due to a COVID-19 outbreak. The Long Beach Health Department announced a total of 17 students at Cal State Long Beach and another 9 cases from non-students who attended an off-campus social gathering were all tested positive for coronavirus. Once school officials announced the outbreak, students who live on campus as well as those off campus were asked to quarantine. Those students who tested positive are staying in separate buildings. School officials say they became aware of students who did not heed guidance related to COVID-19 precautions and congregated socially off campus earlier this month. All on-campus students will be tested for COVID-19, and in-person instructions will be on hold for the next 2 weeks. San Diego State University issued a similar quarantine this summer as more than 800 positive cases were reported since their campus reopened at the end of August. Well, there is a changing of guards taking place in the nation's largest public university system. California State University Board of Trustees selected Fresno State President Joseph Castro as the new chancellor, replacing Timothy White, who is expected to retire at the end of the year. Castro will lead a system of 23 schools where Latino students make up the largest ethnic group at 43%, followed by whites at 22%, Asians at 15%, and 4% Black. Castro was head of Fresno State since 2013, but has served in various roles for 23 years in the UC system and was a professor of family and community medicine at UC San Francisco. Castro joins recently named UC President Michael Drake, who is Black, and California Community College's Chancellor Eloy Ortiz Oakley, who is Latino. For the first time in the state's history, the leaders of all 3 public higher education systems will be led by people of colors. Heading into the cooler months, travelers headed to Yosemite National Park will not have to worry about reservations. Beginning November 1st, reservations will no longer be required to drive into the park. The public is still encouraged to practice the health guidelines set by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to prevent the spread of infectious diseases, including social distancing, avoiding large gatherings, wearing a face covering, washing hands often, and staying home if feeling ill. While reservations won't be required, the number of vehicles entering Yosemite must be reduced from normal visitation levels to ensure the public's safety and avoid overcrowding at the park's most popular destination. Now, if you do plan to make a trip, day use reservations are required until November 1st. You can get those online at recreation.gov. Well, the happiest place on earth is a little less happy this week as Disney announced plans to lay off nearly 28,000 employees from various parks. As Disneyland remains closed, attendance at all parks that have reopened during the pandemic has generally been disappointing. Florida's Walt Disney World, which opened its 4 theme parks in July with reduced hours, moved to an even shorter daily schedule this month. Josh D'Amaro, the chairman of Disney Parks Experience and Product, says his management team had worked to try to avoid layoffs by cutting expenses, suspending products, and modifying hours, but it just wasn't enough given Disneyland's extended closure and limited number of people allowed into Disney World due to social distancing restrictions and other COVID-19 related safety measures. The 28,000 anticipated layoffs includes employees at theme parks, Imagineering, and Disney Cruise Line. The airline industry is also waiting in limbo as thousands could face layoffs in the next few days if the federal government does not step in. As many as 40,000 airline employees are at risk of losing their jobs as the $25 billion in CARES Act funds ends today. As part of the payroll support program, the U.S. Treasury Department provided billions in financial help in order for airlines to keep employees working through the end of September. American Airlines says they may need to cut upwards of 19,000 jobs. United Airlines says they may have to furlough close to 12,000, and Delta is looking at potentially furloughing nearly 2,000 pilots. Southwest Airlines, on the other hand, says they have no plans to cut jobs through at least the end of the year, as more than 4,200 employees elected to take volunteer departure packages this summer and leave the company before the end of September. According to the Transportation Security Administration, leisure and business travel came to a standstill in March at the start of the pandemic. And while passenger volume has increased, the industry is still down by nearly 65%. As we get closer to the November elections, along with the presidential race, many ballot measures along with races will also impact voters. And this weekend, the 2-term incumbent Jackie Lacey will go up against former San Francisco District Attorney George Gascon in the LA County District Attorney debate. Lacey is a native Angelino. She graduated from USC's law school and began working for the DA's office in the 1980s. She then worked her way up the ranks. In 2012, she was the first Black woman to serve in the position. Gascon, who was born in Havana, Cuba, served in the Army and later on the Los Angeles Police Force. He worked his way to assistant police chief and then became a police chief in Mesa, Arizona, and in San Francisco. In 2011, he was appointed San Francisco's DA. The debate will broadcast live on Saturday night on KABC 7 at 9 p.m., commercial-free. Anchor Mark Brown will be the moderator for the 1-hour-long debate. The LA County District Attorney's Office is the largest local prosecutor's office in the United States. You can find more information on both candidates at voterstatus.sos.ca.gov. California Governor Gavin Newsom signed into law a first of its kind for the state. While state and federal laws already require health insurance companies to handle mental health treatments the same as physical health treatments, those laws have not made it medically necessary in order for them to be covered by insurance. For the first time in California's history, Bill AB 1976 reforms Laura's Law by increasing access to care for those needing outpatient behavioral health treatment. He also signed SB 855, which requires health plans and insurers to cover medically necessary treatment for all mental health and substance use disorders. This will require private health insurance plans to pay for more mental health and drug addiction treatments. Advocates have said private insurers have often denied coverage of some treatments. The California Association of Health Plans opposed the law, saying it recklessly defines medical necessities. This new law will take effect January 1st, 2021. A South Bay landmark receives a historic distinction. The Alpine Village, located near Torrance, serves as a cultural center for food, drinks, and events since 1968, and the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors voted unanimously on Tuesday to designate it as a historic landmark. Located in the unincorporated community just west of Carson along the 110 freeway, the Bavarian-themed restaurant hosts the popular Oktoberfest each year and serves as a meeting place for more than 30 social clubs. It's also a meeting place for Germans, Hungarians, Croatians, Polish, and several other cultural groups who host their annual festivals and events at the Alpine Village. They also have a market, shop, and even a chapel. Now, while the owner didn't oppose the landmark designation, they did ask that the interior and the northern 2/3 of the 14-acre property be excluded. That's where they host a weekly swap meet that is said to generate most of the property's revenue. There's less than a week left to submit your claim if you think you should be part of a $500 million Apple settlement. The money stems from a legal battle where Apple admitted it used software updates to purposely slow down older model iPhones. The company says they did this to protect phones with older batteries, but many owners believe it was done with the intent of motivating buyers to get newer, faster models. The iPhones covered in this settlement include iPhone 6, 6S, 6S Plus, SE, 7, and 7 Plus. Those who are eligible are entitled to a one-time cash payment of up to $25 per device if a slowdown was experienced and the phone was operating prior to December 21st, 2017. The deadline to file a claim is Tuesday, October 6th. You can go to smartphoneperformancesettlement.com. If you owned multiple devices, you must file a separate claim for each device. A suspect is under arrest in connection with the shooting of 2 Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies earlier this month. The suspect, identified as 36-year-old Deontay Lee Murray, was arrested 2 weeks ago after an armed carjacking in the Linwood area that prompted a massive search. Murray was linked to a pistol that he discarded while being pursued by sheriff's investigators prior to the standoff in Linwood. After thorough investigations, a ballistics report showed the pistol was the one used in the shooting outside of the Compton Metro, where 2 sheriff's deputies were shot in their patrol cars. LA County District Attorney Jackie Lacey says Murray has been charged with attempted murder in connection with the shooting. He is expected to be arraigned on the charges sometime today at the Compton courthouse. Today would have marked the last day to participate in the 2020 census, but the U.S. Secretary of Commerce announced that the count will actually be extended until Monday, October 5th, giving residents a few more days to get their surveys in. This is a constitutional mandate that occurs every 10 years. It helps to determine the number of seats each state holds in the U.S. House of Representatives and how billions of dollars in federal funds will be allocated to state and local communities over the next decade. The Census Bureau has made it much easier to take part by making the survey available by mail, over the phone, or online. The information you share is confidential and cannot be traced back to you as a respondent, and your information cannot be used against you by local law enforcement. You can go to 2020census.gov to fill out your survey online. It is the end of an era, as today marks the last day on the job for Torrance City Manager Leroy Jackson. Jackson visited various departments and employees throughout the month in socially distanced COVID compliant visits to graciously say thank you to all of his employees. We were lucky to sit down with a number of his former employees, current executive staff, and elected officials, and collectively, they all had nothing but high regards for a man who dedicated most of his adult life to serving this community. Jin Chun tells us more.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Torrance, California, does hereby commend, honor, and congratulate Leroy J. Jackson for his dedication, professionalism, and contributions to the City of Torrance.
A virtual standing ovation for a man whose legacy withstands 54 years of commitment and service to the City of Torrance.
We are deeply impacted by what Leroy Jackson has given to us. He just has a work ethic that has no ends. He will be here early in the morning to late at night and leads by example. And that's not just an example, as I said, to the employees, but also to the elected officials and also to the community.
Jackson, who moved to Torrance in the mid-1960s with his wife Connie, both from Ridgecrest, California, built not only a legacy for the city, but roots in Torrance, raising 6 children through the decades.
But somehow we fell in love with Torrance, and Leroy in particular grew deep, deep roots, and I am never going to get him out. He started, he didn't have any desk, so he stood at a file cabinet in personnel, and he read all the folders, and that got him a lot of knowledge that helped him immensely in the following years to come.
I'm Leroy Jackson. I'm city manager of the City of Torrance. Sometimes we get ahead of ourselves, so we tend to take action and then ask for input. But we'd ask that you open the matter up, you encourage citizen or employee input, counting on which commission it is, and you listen to that input before you take action.
Jackson began as a personnel analyst in 1966, eventually working his way up to city manager in 1983. Serving 37 years in that role, he is only the 4th CEO to lead the city, helping to maintain its core values, traditions, and shaping a community that touts nearly 150,000 residents, close to 2,000 employees, and an operating budget of more than $330 million. During his tenure, Jackson has worked with 8 mayors, countless department heads, and has become a wealth of knowledge and resource to the community. Many call him the boss, but more affectionately, their friend and mentor.
There was always opportunity to grow, not necessarily big promotions and what have you, but mentally in assignments. And I did enjoy working for Leroy, and that's when you enjoy where you work, that's and who you work for, that's a blessing.
Working for Leroy personally, sitting within 10 feet of his desk for 20 years has been my honor. I couldn't have asked for a better mentor, friend, confidant when I'm struggling with something, with either a work product or family. I bounce the ideas off of him that I'm having, or I just go in and vent, and he lets me. He always has a clever thought, and he somehow always turns it around that if I went in crying, I come out laughing, and I come out stronger.
When I think about how Leroy has managed crisis and how he's actually made us stronger through crisis, number one is he understands his people and he allows them to be the best at what they do. So in times of crisis, Leroy pauses and says, who's the right person to handle this and this and this? And he sets expectations and then he gets out of their way. I would say the other attribute that Leroy demonstrates that has allowed us to weather storms is he is people first. He is constantly thinking about the individual, whether it's individual employees or the individuals in the community. His decisions reflect this awareness that while we can make sterile and numbers-based decisions, those decisions ultimately impact people, and that's what's in the forefront of his mind as we move forward and make decisions in difficult situations.
He has a way of rationalizing it that's uncanny. I would say that recommendation makes no sense to me. And he would somehow be able to draw either from another project or draw from a personal insight or explain it based on what was going on in current events. And so you would leave saying, oh, that's why they went that way. He was very good at that, at making you feel like once the recommendations came in, we had to implement them the best way we could and that they made sense. And Leroy is very genuine. He doesn't pretend to be anyone he's not. He doesn't try to fit what would be a perception of a CEO, or he doesn't want to fit into what is the fashion statement of the day. Leroy enjoys his boots, enjoys his suits, enjoys that his wife cuts his hair, and that's Leroy.
Jackson has always had a deep appreciation for history, many referring to him as a walking encyclopedia of Torrance. And over the course of his time leading Torrance to become fiscally sound, safe and secure, and one of the most desired cities to work and live in, he's held his position with modesty, transparency, and integrity. Jackson has always held dear to him the values of working as a public servant, imploring the ideal that all city employees are custodians of something truly special.
He chose a kind of department head that reflected his values, and I think that those values will continue through the executive staff, and I think those values are important to the city, to the community, as well as to the electeds.
You know, Leroy's wrote a lot of chapters in the history of Torrance, and when time comes, years to come, they will have a big place in that book for Leroy's incredible leadership on all these things, including this building behind us. Leroy was instrumental in making staff get involved in this, but he did that with so many other things. There's so many things that I know that Leroy is leaving the city and feeling to himself he didn't get it all done. And I have to tell him that he's done an incredible job. So I want him never to feel that he didn't accomplish all the things he thinks he could have done.
Leroy has shaped our city. And even though he's leaving, we have the Leroy legacy. So he's built a framework which has shaped our city. He has people in place. People know the Torrance way. And it's through this way that we will continue going forward, and we will always be moving in the right direction because that's the foundation that he laid for us. So he will still be here.
And in that foundation, the balance of work and family life has always been a top priority, never missing a moment in any of his 6 children's special events at school, as a father, and now as a grandfather and great-grandfather.
I've been here 20 years with them. I hope to be here for another extended period of time. I said, you're going to have a 100-year impact on this community. And that's unique. I think it's unheard of.
During Jackson's last virtual meeting as city manager, a man who is known to shy away from the spotlight was the center of much-deserved attention as many tuned in to watch and listen. Jackson shared heartfelt thank yous with the mayor and city council, along with his executive team for their support through the years.
Mayor and council, I thank you so much for these years you've allowed me to serve this city and for all of the opportunities open to me. Bonnie and I have had our lives and our careers so intertwined with Torrance. It is a part and parcel to who we are. Our first son was born just 3 days after my first day with the city. Each of our 6 children became part of the City Hall. I've deeply enjoyed my career with the city and have been blessed with knowing and being mentored by Edward J. Ferrero, my predecessor, and being part of his executive staff. All the department heads I work with, Jack McKinnon, Chief Lucas and Sloniker, Chief Koenig, Glenn Kirkruff, Kerry Van Bellum, and others, each helped me along the way, voices from the past. There also has been my staff, Liz Rojas, Dan McLean, Kathy Keene, Brian Sunshine, Michael Smith, Ellie, Dom, Jay, Katie, Jill, Zelma, Kathy, and Kim, and so many others now and across the years. They were and are the hard-working team that made this office of city manager and me shine. I'm so proud of the organization I have managed. The city family met all challenges and constantly served council and our citizens through tough years and good, through crisis and opportunity, and through ever-happening challenges. The last 6 months have been proof in the pudding of their ability to step up to cyber, COVID, civil unrest, and financial crisis. With Rom, this team will carry you and the community in and through the challenges of the future. As always, I share with you how much of who I am is family. My spirited partner, Connie, my children have all been and are part of who I am. And so, I close wishing all of Torrance the best and knowing the best is yet to come. Thank you.
While traditional retirements of this nature would allow for hugs, handshakes, and group photos, this year's pandemic limited the social interaction that would have otherwise held a standing room only for the outgoing city manager. The council surprised Jackson by dedicating his last day on the job as Leroy Jackson Day in the city of Torrance.
Mr. Jackson, on behalf of my colleagues on the council, the 7 mayors, elected mayors that preceded me, and all the elected officials that have served with you, and I say it with you, congratulations. But at this time, my colleagues and I have a surprise proclamation that we would like to present to Mr. Jackson. To hereby proclaim September 30th, 2020 as Leroy J. Jackson Day in the city of Torrance. And I ask the entire community to join in this celebration as we applaud Leroy's 54 years of continuous service and 37 years as city manager. On behalf of the city council, we wish Leroy the very best in his retirement. Presented this 22nd day of September 2020.
He leaves a legacy that's unique to the individual. I think everyone has a unique perspective about his legacy. The one that strikes me the most, that's personal to me, is his small town, aw shucks personality that he brings to a very, very important position. Why that is such a legacy for me is because there's a humility that he carries in everything that he does. And that humility is a thread in the decisions he makes. It takes the ego out of it and boils it down to what's truly important.
Aside from Jackson's famous cowboy boots and gentle disposition, his legacy and profound impact on Torrance will be written in the history books for many generations to know.
Thanks, Jen. Well, as you know, before we go, at the end of each program, we like to share stories from our community. Feel-good pictures, images, and videos that remind us of how resilient our community is and how Torrance truly cares. Well, there might not be anyone who cares more about Torrance than the outgoing city manager, Leroy Jackson, and you just watched. Today also marks Leroy J. Jackson Day here in Torrance, his last official day on the job. Well, on the eve of his last day, he was surprised with an honor so fitting for the man who has spent countless hours listening and advising members of the city council and city staff inside this particular room. The city dedicated the Torrance City Hall Council chambers to Leroy J. Jackson. He was also surprised with the 2020 Jared Sidney Torrance Award, which is an honor given by the mayor. Jackson joins an elite group of Torrance recipients, as this award is given to only those who have served the community continuously throughout their lifetime through leadership and dedication. Through his 54 years of tireless service to the Torrance community, he leaves an immeasurable imprint on the city's landscape, vision, and legacy. We wish him a wonderful retirement with his beautiful family. We couldn't find a more fitting person to honor in our Torrance Care segment than you, Leroy. Well, that is our update for COVID-19 today. Be sure to join us again tomorrow at 4 p.m. as Ben McCain brings you the latest updates. Please be safe, stay healthy, and thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.